everybody, I'm Lori Petro. Welcome to another episode of Teachable Moments. This is a place where I show you how to connect with your kids. How do we get kids to connect and cooperate and calm ourselves in the meantime? Today we have a very special guest. This is actually someone that if you've been with me for any length of time, then you probably remember Hunter. She was one of my very first guests way back, like 9 years ago when I first started Teachable Moments and my weekly videos. And she is an accomplished parenting teacher and author of a best-selling book, Raising Good Humans. And now she has a new book out, which we're going to talk about today, Raising Good Humans Every Day. So we're going to bring Hunter on in just a few minutes. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her book. That's a screeny one. Okay, so this is Hunter's first book, Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. You guys know that is right up my alley. One of the things I'm most passionate about is that. So Hunter's here. We're going to bring her on in just a second. So this is her first book, but let's show you her new book because she has a new one out, and that's the one we're going to talk about today. Raising Good Humans Every Day. This is her new book, 50 Simple Ways to Press Pause, Stay Present, and Connect with Your Kids. So I love this, and I think what I love about this book most inside, you guys, is the chapter titles. I have so many different notes that I was writing down, but I love because they're super easy to flip through, like a guidebook for us. And this actually, it is, well, we're going to let Hunter describe it, but it seems like a guidebook follow-up companion book to her original Raising Good Humans book. But what I love about it is how it's so great to flip through for a particular challenge, and then you get that actionable insight right there, because not everybody has time to read. Like, we all love to delve into the theory sometimes, some of us, but other times a lot of us just need actionable tips. And that's what I love about this book, is that it gives you really simple, short, concise, this is my problem, and you'll recognize it in the chapter titles. And then you go through, you get a little bit a story, you get some science, and then you get that actionable strategy that you can take away right away. So that is the book that we are going to discuss. All right, let's stop this screen. So Hunter Clarke-Fields, as I said, you guys, you remember her from one of our old Teachable Moments videos. She is a mindfulness mentor, a mindful mama podcast host, mom, global speaker, and #1 best-selling author of Raising Good Humans. And like I said, she has this new book, Raising Good Humans Every Day. And this is coming out. You guys can pre-order it. It's coming out August 1st. I believe it's going to be available on all the book selling places, but we'll let Hunter talk about that. So Hunter has over 20 years experience in meditation and yoga practices, and she helps moms bring more calm and family cooperation into their daily lives. She is a mindfulness meditation teacher, the creator of the Mindful Parenting course and teacher training, and has taught mindfulness to thousands worldwide, including a recent trip to Egypt. Wow, she's like been all over the world. And I know she was like way far down under, or maybe that was in like the Middle East somewhere. I know Hunter's been all over. She's like world traveler. So without any further ado, let's bring Hunter in. I believe that she has been able to hear all this. Let's see. Add your stream. Let's do it like this. Hi, Hunter.
Hi, Lori. So nice to see you.
Welcome. It's so good to see you. Are you hearing feedback? I'm hearing feedback.
Oh, you are.
Is that just me? Let me see.
So.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just background noise, do you think? I don't know. Let me just check all my... I think it is.
Okay.
It might be me.
Testing.
Hopefully the recording will block all that out. It's okay. Sorry, it's technology. We just go with it, right? No matter what.
Yeah.
Hi, it's so good to see you. Thank you for doing this on such short notice and deciding to come on and share all about your new book. It was super fast. I saw you come online just last week, right? And I've been sort of just like out dealing with lots of family stuff, and when I saw you, I got so excited because it just kind of brought me back to, I don't know, the good old days when we had little kids. And now our kids are little, right? And now they're all big. How old are your kids now?
I came to your house. I was like, oh my God, I get to meet her.
Oh,
wow. I was so excited.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny because it's just like, I had like a 6-year-old or something at that point, and I was just so passionate about what I was doing that like anybody who wanted to come and talk, I was like, sure, let's do this. Even though it was probably... Wait, I have a picture. I have to share this with you because I thought it was so funny. Let's see. Do I have it up? Okay. I'm going to share. Okay, there it is. You're looking at, I love the way that you're looking at me because she's like, have I made a good decision? No, I'm just kidding. But it's like hilarious. So we're right in front of like the fireplace. There's like a Santa statue in the back, even though I think it was like March. So I don't know what was happening there. But there we are 9 years ago. Self-care solutions with Hunter Clarke-Fields. You can go look up this video on my website to get more of Hunter after this if you want. But I just had to share that because I thought it was adorable and hilarious because just that I happened to catch like when I opened it and found like us, it was like there was that screenshot and I was like, that's perfect. I have to do that.
I'm giving you the sus look.
I know. It's just so funny because there was like so many mishaps even on that day. There was like construction or noise outside that we had to pause for. But let's talk about your books. So you had your first book, Raising Good Humans, sold over 200,000 copies. Congratulations. What a huge, amazing accomplishment in the parenting world because there are so many books people can choose from, right? And I think that's really special to have poured your heart out into a book and had it do so well. It's just amazing. And maybe that's what I read last. It may have even been more now, but is this a companion book? Is this a guidebook? How would you describe Raising Good Humans every day?
I mean, I love the way actually you described it, how it's like super actionable. You don't have to read through the whole thing. You can just dive into where your problem is. Yeah, I mean, my idea was like I'm super inspired by like books that I get to read like a little bit every day. And so actually initially I pitched to the publisher like a 365 day, like one a day, and they were like, that's a lot of pages. Maybe we could do something a little shorter.
Because then you might need 2 or 3 for each day, right? At that point.
I'm so grateful that they suggested we do a little less because I can imagine myself having gone crazy. But I love this because, yeah, the ideas, with Raising Good Humans, I really wanted to hone in on like the very most practical things I found, like all those mindfulness tools to calm our reactivity and those skillful communication tools, right? Like both of those things, I felt like these were like the most essential things. And I had like one chapter about your home and kind of having a peaceful home. But I've done the Mindful Mama podcast for 10 years. I've talked to so many guests. I've like learned so much about a lot of different things. So then with this book in this format, I get to like kind of do a little short chapter that's like 3 or 4 pages and you're done with the chapter. It's great. And just dive into whatever challenge you're working on. So I I mean, as a podcaster, I get books from people. Sometimes I get like these like 300-400 page tomes. And they may have great information, but it's just too much. You just have no sense of accomplishment. You're never going to get through it. And I know, and I feel like that's like one of my skills is to take something that can be complex and have a lot of research and all these different things and like distill it down into like the most essential information to make it really practical and like you said, actionable, like just to really be able to take it and go with it.
Yeah, super. Like when I was writing it down, I put down, it's a short summary of conscious parenting touch points, because that's what I love is that you really touch on all these little pieces. Like we know we have to have that communication skill and we know we want to be mindful, but there's so much work to do before we can actually actualize that in our lives, right? And that's kind of what you go through, all those really important touch points. And then, but what I love what you do is you share the story that makes it really relatable. And then you share some science from all over, which is probably what you're talking about. You've interviewed so many different people, so there's so many different pieces, and you pull them all into this book. And then it's like then you take that actionable insight from whatever that science or that touch point was. But what was it that made you want to like connect these 2 books together and not just write something totally different? Like why do they have that same, what made you want to like write this book in particular, I guess, and have it connected?
Well, I think, I mean, for me, I need my lessons again and again and again and again, right? Like, so I want to approach us. I want to approach some of the same ideas from many different angles, because that's, for me, is the best way I learn something, right? Like, I need to hear it from so many different sides, so many different stories. Like, I do the teacher training program. You mentioned that in the beginning, and I love that because I review again and again and again. And it, like, selfishly, it's so great for me because I'm like, oh yes, like, let me like go over win-win problem solving and iMessages again. Like, this is so helpful, and I really need that. And so, yeah, so I wanted it to be a companion piece. I did want to reiterate some of the same like touch points that are so, so essential. And then I really wanted to just be able to expand on it and just like into that, like our homes, our schedules, our mindsets, some of the wonky ways we think about some things, like I get to touch on some of those things in here that are just might be like just slightly adjacent or tangential, you know what I mean? So I get to kind of follow all these little tangents, and I feel like they're all really important. They're all places where I've had ahas, like, from all kinds of different teachers, like about, downtime, about how I'm thinking about my kids. Like, there's like chapter 45 is called Love More, Care Less. And that comes from something Dr. Shefali Sabari said at a talk I saw her, and it just stuck with me for years and years and years. And I thought, it needs its own little piece, right? And like all these like kind of little practices. So it's like 50 simple ways, and that's the ideas.
And that's what I want to touch on, because I know that when a lot of parents hear the word mindfulness or meditation, which you really, especially in the beginning of the book, I know that you really emphasize different ways to do it. You make it so relatable for those fidgety parents, as you say. So it's not something, I don't want anybody to be like, more mindfulness. No, because this is really accessible. And like you said, like even the most fidgety of parents, you can bring this into their practice, which I really loved. Why was that? And no matter how many times they failed, because I think people try meditation, like they'll try once or twice and they're like, oh, it's not for me. And then they'll never do it again. What practices would you say are for those fidgety parents? Because we kind of know why it's important. But what would you say is the one practice that a fidgety parent can really take away?
Well, I understand us being fidgety. Like, that's a natural human state. And for parents, we're so anxious. We got so much to do. It is really hard to like get into that going zone and then slow it down, right? But the problem is then we're doing all this stuff. We're planning. We're doing the logistics. We're getting it all done. And then finally we get to our Cancun vacation and we're like, now I'm going to be able to relax. And we can't. Because we have trained our brains to always, always be going. So it really, really is imperative, right? Because you can't love your kids in the future or the past. You can only love them right now, so it's that important. It comes down to you actually being there for your life, for your kid's life, right? For these whatever 900 summers or Saturdays we have with them, right? 18 summers, 18
when you
summers.
Reduce it like that, it's so real. And my daughter's 17 now, so I'm like, I keep looking back, going, I'm literally physically turning myself around because it blows my mind every time. But I'm like, that was it. I got like one chance, and that was it. And every year that went by was a chance for me to make sure I was repairing, make sure I was staying in that moment, because that was the only, I really realized, especially as the years passed, how very important that cliche is to hold on to, because it does go fast. And you talk a lot in the book about, you share a lot of your own personal struggles and stories, and about you said that you're highly sensitive. And I think there's always that fine line, right, between sharing too much of ourselves and then being helpful to parents too. But you balance it so well. Why was that important for you to include your personal struggle, and maybe not just make it parents that you've worked with, because you've obviously worked with tons and tons of parents that you could have used their stories? Why was that important to you?
Well, I think because, one of the things I think that has helped raising good humans do so well is that I wasn't an expert in parenting. Like, I wasn't naturally great at it. I was kind of naturally bad at it. I was
Yeah.
it was horrible. I was terrible. And as far as, certain moments, they were really bad. And I really had to struggle. And I really do have a temper. Like, I still work with that. Right. And so, I come from a place of like, I really, really understand how hard it is. I'm not naturally like super great with I don't have a lot of patience. I have a lot of energy. I'm quick temper and things like that. And so like, even when you think about like the fidgetiness, I've learned to do sitting meditation now. And now I think it's funny. Sometimes people are like, oh, Hunter, you're so calm and peaceful. And I'm like, wow, it's amazing. Because it's not like, it's something that's sort of has happened over time. But like that fidgety thing, when I used to bring my kids to this Montessori school that's like kind of like a short walk away from the house. And it was like when they were really little, it was 3 days a week for 3 hours. And so that 3 hours went by so, so fast. I mean, literally, you're done. You have to go pick them up. And I would literally run home from drop off. I would be like, okay, I gotta get home.
Make the most of that time.
I got a lot to do. Yeah. And then I realized like, oh, like, when I do that, like I'm feeding my anxiety. I'm feeding this energy of not enough time. Like whenever our body, and now I know that whenever actually our bodies, when we hurry at all, our nervous system registers that as a threat because, why would you hurry in the natural world with no clocks and times if there wasn't a threat, right? The only reason you would hurry is if there was something wrong.
And it gives us the energy, and when we do need to hurry, it gives us the energy, right? That stress response actually provides the adrenaline that if we did need to hurry, we could do it. So it's like these are natural responses, but we don't need to turn them on in the way that we do every day.
And ultimately, like the stress response, it actually cuts off access to the slower parts of our brain. It makes us more anxious and less able to focus and have steadiness and peace and all that. So I decided I'm going to walk. I got to practice when I'm preaching. I am going to practice mindfully walking home from drop off. And it was so hard. That first couple times I was like, I'm just slowly walking and I'm breathing. I'm like, oh, I can feel the like itchiness in my fingers and my toes. But I did it. And as I practiced that, it did actually take me a few minutes longer to get home. Not that much longer because it wasn't actually that long, far away. But the weird thing is that I got more done and I felt more relaxed. And then I was more present at pickup because I wasn't like racing to fill every second. And I got more done. It's like this weird thing when we slow ourselves down, when we carve out a couple of minutes a day, like which I know we have because we're on social media, right? A couple of minutes a day to stop and slow ourselves down. It's kind of a weird paradoxical thing in that actually ends up giving us a little more time in our days, and because we just are more spacious about everything.
I love that. That's exactly it. And this is absolutely true. I'm a long time 20 plus year meditator, building up from that. I can't sit still for more than a minute. What am I trying to do to like 20 years, 25 years now, actually, if I don't meditate for 30 minutes, like meditation for me is like going to the gym for some people. I'm not good with the going to the gym. I'll walk now. But meditation for me gives me that high that some people walk out of exercise with. And the fact that I could sit still and get to that place. And if I don't do it in the morning, at least like start my morning, if I don't do at least like a short morning meditation, I'm so much more inefficient during the day. It's crazy, but it's so absolutely true. And I just know this firsthand. And I have been, I've built up over the years, but I don't think you have to be like a long time meditator to feel those immediate benefits, because it gives you that spaciousness to when something comes in, it doesn't like immediately throw you to the end of your tolerance, right? And then you have no more space to deal with anything. Yeah. It actually builds I love the way you put that. It builds space in your whole body so that all the little things that come in, you have more room to deal with them. And then you actually can, instead of getting sidetracked for 25 minutes from something small, you deal with it, and then you have all that space to do whatever else, while your kids. Oh, I still remember those days when it was such a short time. My daughter also went to like a co-op preschool in the beginning. It was like 3 hours, but it was like, 15 minutes to drive, and then it was like all that extra time, and it would cut in. It would really only be an hour and 45 minutes by the time I was done. It felt like
Yes.
way back those were the early days of meditation for me too. But you talk about this, the words come in, that internal dialogue comes in and says, you got to get home, you got to get it done, you only have this much time, or telling us that we're not good enough. And I know in part of the book you touched on this, and kind of how the self-help industry will say, well, you have, if you're thinking different, then everything in the outer world will be different. And you're like, well, I'm thinking different, I'm trying to think different, but the thoughts are creeping in. Where does that fit in? How do you combat that maybe in the moment? Do you have any of those 50, one of those 50 tools to help for that? Because I know you talked about that, and how you, sort of, not that you overcome the habit, because I think it's something, like you said, it's a practice that we're always working on. We're not, some perfectly calm people all the time. But what would you say your tip is for that, when that self-talk creeps in and you're like, the guilt or whatever it may be stops us?
Yeah. And the reason this is so important is because that inner voice comes out with your kids, ultimately. When you're squeezed, that inner voice will come out. And, I remember seeing, I've had my own experiences with that, where I've inherited, toxic